Welcome to Codex History of Video Games. I'm Mike Coletta.
And I'm Tyler Osby.
I'm trying to do my generic fighting stance. You know, when like a fighter is just like their idle animation. That's what I'm trying to do right now.
That's important.
But I was trying to make it a dance to the music. Mm-hmm. Okay. Today we're doing Jacked Part 2. This is a book by David Kushner. It's all about the history of Grand Theft Auto and Rockstar specifically. Mm-hmm. If you're listening to this and you haven't listened to Part 1, that's weird, but fine, I suppose.
You probably still have a good time. I mean, I like to think we're funny.
You'll be able to follow along, but we also did a Part 1 about 3 weeks ago now. So if you want to listen to that first and then come back to this one, you can do that too.
Yeah.
But Tyler, how about you take it away with Chapter 5?
Let's talk a little bit about Chapter 5. I do want to say David Kushner is the person that wrote Masters of Doom as well. So
good call out.
If you want another great video game story, you can read that book as well. That's a very good book, kind of a classic in video game history canon. We've covered it on the show before, but I also highly recommend buying it, just like I recommend buying this book. So
and go back and listen to it then. You know, that helps us out. And by helps us out, I mean, we don't make any money, but you can tell your friends about us. That's what it is.
Yeah, when it helps the book out, which is great.
We want the authors of the books to be helped out because then they make more books.
That's right.
And then we get to read those books.
And I like reading books.
We do. As you get older, you like reading. It's weird. Okay,
yeah,
I'm ready.
It is weird. Okay, Chapter 5. So they'd made a breakthrough on the game at this point by turning the concept on its head. Remember, we're still talking about race and chase at this point, where it was like you're a cop and you're like going around doing cop stuff. It was kind of boring though, because you had to obey the traffic signs. You couldn't go too fast. You had to be the good guy. So they made the player the bad guy criminal instead of the good guy cop. And that was like a lot more fun because now you could run red lights. You were trying to evade the cops. You were trying to get away. There's a bit more tension, a bit more fun to it. But so they'd fixed that little problem of the game, not being fun, and they just flipped the fun switch and made it fun. But it wasn't really certain if they were going to be able to ship. The video game industry at the time was, and still is, I would say, dominated by like graphically intense games, headlined by a character that the publisher can sell. The example that Kushner uses in the book is Tomb Raider. The player controls Lara Croft on this like Indiana Jones style adventure. That was like the big game at the time that everybody was being compared to. It had great graphics at the time. The gameplay was really fun. Everybody loved Lara Croft in Tomb Raider. This is the time, we're talking mid-90s now, so like this is the time of like the mascot platformer, your Marios, your Sonics, your Crash Bandicoots, these characters that that publishers could sell either to kids or to people who wanted to have fun playing their goofy games. So these guys are out here with their crime simulator, and it didn't even have amazingly realistic graphics. So if you're going to make a gritty game about doing crimes, at least make it appeal to adults by being graphically awesome and stuff, but they didn't do that. So it was kind of starting to look like Race and Chase, or as it was now known as we left off in Chapter 4, Grand Theft Auto, more like Grand Theft Not O. Am I right? Because they weren't sure if they were going to ship.
Ooh, that was a good one. That was a good joke right there, everybody.
Appreciate
we come in for the prime comedy, that USDA choice comedy.
That's right. I appreciate the no laugh, but you did tell me it was funny, and that's how I know it was funny.
That's actually how you know a bit is funny among comedians. Is they're not going to laugh at it. They're going to be like, "That's good. That's really good," because they're going to be secretly mad they didn't think of it.
Yeah, and they can't show the emotion of laughing about it. They can only comment objectively that it was funny.
It's like when we're done recording today, I'm going to be sitting in the dark in my room and like one single tear is going to roll down my cheek and I'm going to be like, Grand Theft Auto. How did I not think of that? That's what's going to happen. Could have been me. Yeah. It's going to be me. Okay.
It is May. So the game was in rough shape at this point. It was buggy. It was unresponsive. The story was really not very good either. So they got some help. Sam Hauser's younger brother, Dan Hauser, had joined the team right now, and he was like kind of a writer kind of dude. He had studied literature at Oxford, so he was pretty fancy. He started realizing that the game was like a commentary on the world as it is. Like you're in a gangster movie, right? And gangster movies are often beneath the surface level of like being cool doing gangster stuff. They're usually a commentary on like, well, like what drives people to get into this line of work. It's usually a commentary on like the state of society. And he saw parallels to that in Grand Theft Auto, being in a gangster movie. So they focused on this, the gameplay over the graphics here, even though that's not really what the industry demanded at the time. Dan decided to help fix up the story, though. They gave players reasons to do the missions, not just drive around all day running people over. driving around, having no objectives is like fun for a little while. And it's like fun when you like need a break from everything else. But I think the storylines in Grand Theft Auto and some of Rockstar's later games as well, those are a very important part of what makes those games great. I especially think that once they got to about this like Vice City, San Andreas era, the storylines got really good. And I would say Grand Theft Auto 4 sort of laid the groundwork for like a Red Dead Redemption, and then Red Dead Redemption 2 and Grand Theft Auto 5 have like pretty good stories. Also, LA Noire is in there, which is also a Rockstar game.
Oh yeah.
Even if it was
The other thing
developed by a different company.
Like the one thing I was thinking of with like story beat wise is I remember, and this is spoilers to a really old video game, but in Grand Theft Auto Vice City, when you get betrayed by Lance.
Yeah.
But that's like a big story beat. And I was like, whoa, as a kid, I did not see that coming. But if you watched any crime movies, you'd know that was coming, but that's like, as a kid, I didn't know that. That's what really is cool about the stories in Grand Theft Auto. So,
yeah. Did you ever play Vice City Stories?
I never did.
PSP and on PS2, because it's like a prequel to Vice City. And you play as Lance's brother in that game, helping him get like the criminal empire set up.
I mean, I might have to play it now that I have a Retroid Pocket. Right?
You should. It's so good. So yeah, these Grand Theft Auto games kind of feel like parodies of real life, right? That's a big part of GTA for me. I think the appeal is like seeing sort of like America get made fun of through this lens of a bunch of like British and Scottish people making this game. I love it. So yeah, and especially in a world where like these like the novelty of all these open world games for me is like open world for a little while. That's all you needed, but at this point, present day, fast forward to present day, I need more than just an open world, and I think the stories in Grand Theft Auto games really keep that going. But they had another more universal problem that many game publishers have here. They needed to advertise this game. And because they knew they had something different and weird and that they wouldn't be able to appeal to the masses with this, like, look at these amazing graphics or that kind of stuff, they were going to have to get some extra help here. So they enlisted the help of Max Clifford and Associates. This is a PR firm that represented guys like Frank Sinatra, Muhammad Ali, a few others. They were well known for manufacturing controversy or taking advantage of controversy that already existed. And as we all know now, but it was not quite as clear in the days before GTA came out, GTA itself is controversy, right? Like it is kind of the definition of controversial video game, even still to this day. They didn't quite know at the time the level that their game would get to in the real world as far as controversy goes. But the game is also pretty spicy and different even to the people playing the game. So in order to make players feel like they were playing in an actual gangster movie, the advertising kind of needed to show that off. And that would take a little bit of creative ingenuity. They knew their game wasn't for everybody, but if they could reach the people that it was for, they knew that it would be successful. And this is where Clifford and Associates came in. So they knew they could sell this, and they would really lean into the unconventional, controversial aspects of the game, especially in a world where video games are still kind of synonymous with kids' toys. You could stand out by being controversial. It was risky because games were seen as for children and you don't want to be seen as like corrupting the children. But if you can do this at the right time in history where games are starting to become more of an adult pastime and less of a thing that's like only for kids, you could get away with this. And I think the like mid to late 90s is sort of the perfect time to do something like this. To really push that envelope because gamers were getting older. They wanted a little bit more mature experiences. They weren't growing out of games. Games were growing with them. So
I love that.
Yeah. So Clifford would plant little seeds that would like kind of make politicians hate the game. They'd like send little press releases to different politicians. Be like, have you seen this game? Isn't that crazy? Wow. We should be saving the children here. Doesn't this make you angry? And they took the bait big time. And they ran with it. And that gave these games, not just Grand Theft Auto, but like other games too, a lot of free advertising. We remember Jack Thompson in the earlier 90s with Mortal Kombat and stuff like that. That was just free advertising for them. We've covered that stuff a lot on the show already. So you can head back to some of those episodes to hear about how some of that stuff went down. But they knew that if they were able to make this game seem like it was like not okay or like sort of naughty, that like kids would want this game. And if they could get their parents to get it for them, right? Even if the government was saying they shouldn't play it. And in fact, if people were saying they shouldn't play it, that makes them want to play it more. So they really gave the system on that one. And I think the
modern, they worked so big. And then the modern version of this, by the way, is when you're watching a social media post and someone says a word wrong on purpose, so everyone in the comments freaks out. It's the same kind of principle of it, to make
Yep.
engagement happen, just like by making people mad for no reason.
The best way to get a good answer on the internet is not to just go out on the internet and ask a question. The best way is to post the wrong answer, and then somebody will be compelled to correct you because it made them
That's
mad
exactly
that they saw
it.
the wrong answer. They won't answer just a question to give you the right answer, but they will tell you if you got it wrong.
That's why every time we post a YouTube short and someone gets really mad in the comments, I'm like, yes, your hatred fuels our engagement.
And that's also part of why social media is destroying the world, but that's a different topic.
True. True.
But I think we are okay in our talking about silly video games podcast. I think we are not.
Yeah, we're going to be
fabric
fine,
of reality.
everybody. I think if anything, we're holding the fabric of reality together. I don't mean to sound too important, but we're up there. Okay,
but we're holding the fabric of reality.
We're
together.
holding the fabric of reality together about talking about old GTA games today.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we are like an interdimensional atlas. Just holding the threads of reality together. Did I mix too many metaphors there?
No, I was going to try to do like some sort of wanted loom of fate situation, but I like interdimensional atlas. That's good. So yeah, only Tyler can curve the bullet. Okay, let's move on. Sorry.
So manufacturing all of this controversy worked. The House of Lords in the UK started talking about this game before it was even out. Think of the children. Well, now the children are thinking about the game and they want to play it. So nice work, idiots.
Get them.
Yeah. So they had to get their game rated by the British Board of Film Classification, which is a pretty big deal. But the board can refuse to rate a game. And that would make it not okay to sell at this point in time in the UK. So this wouldn't be the first time that a game wasn't rated for sale in the UK. Kushner talks about Carmageddon, which was refused classification by the board. This happened on a fairly regular basis. So this was a real threat that a game could be refused to get classified. This wasn't like the ESRB in North America, where not having a rating, it wasn't illegal to not get your game rated. It just meant you probably weren't going to get sold in stores. As I understand it, the British Board of Film Classification, you have to do it if you want to sell your stuff in the UK. So they needed to thread the needle here of manufacturing the controversy while also not making it so controversial that they are not allowed to sell it in the UK, because this game is going to come out in the UK before it comes out anywhere else. I kind of imagine the Lifestyles of the Rich and the Famous guy. I don't know his name, but that narrator talking about the sex, drugs, and violence in the video game. Just condemning it with his words, but sort of validating it by giving it any attention at all. I don't know why I pictured that guy, but I needed a stereotypical upscale British guy to do the voice in my head. I got a lot of voices in my head, so
that's a good one to have in your head, though. I think
that's
a solid reference.
Yeah. So the press work that Clifford had done worked so well that the people at DMA Design were starting to get a little worried. It also seemed like maybe the press wanted them to fail. They tell a story about Brian Baglow's minor fender bender being blown way out of proportion by tabloids. He kind of just brushed against a tree and sort of dented his car up a little bit. But when it hit the tabloids, it was video game developer crashes car, wraps it around a tree, goes on a bender, and oh no, this terrible game is making terrible people do terrible things. And it's he just bonked a tree. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
But it seemed like the media maybe wanted them to fail a little bit. It was getting to be a little bit too much, especially right before the game launched. So they tried to walk a little bit of the violence back, telling people that the players were actually being punished for racking up wanted levels and that you never win eventually. Crime doesn't pay. You get more and more stars and more cops come after you. You can't win. Eventually you lose, right? You just keep playing until you lose. It's like Tetris. You just play till you lose. You never win Tetris, right? So then the game launched and it was like warm cakes and gang. I don't know what the just okay version of hotcakes and gangbusters is.
Gang walking. Well, busting is you're busting ghosts,
Yeah.
So maybe gang hotcakes and gang. No, I got to work on it.
All right, we'll workshop it.
It's hard.
We'll come back.
You know what? If you can think of a good one for not lukewarm cakes and gang whatever, send us an email. That's a good. We'll workshop this as a group, okay?
Yeah. If something doesn't do well, I propose cold cakes and gang handshakes. It also rhymes, which is very nice.
Ooh, that's good. Cold cakes and gang handshakes. I like that. That's good. It's really good.
So the game did okay in the UK at first. Lots of people dismissed the cartoony graphics and difficult controls. Other people really liked it. They really loved the freedom that the player was given to sort of play the game their way. So it did fine. It wasn't game came out and flopped. It also didn't blow the doors off of anything, at least immediately. It was a pretty good return on investment for the developers, though. They weren't about to take over the world, but it was successful, and they were like, sweet, let's do another one. So that's kind of where we leave off chapter 5, I guess.
So chapter 6, GTA's out. That's a restart. The game is successful, right? It's not like huge yet, but it's successful, and Sam Houser should feel really good at this point.
Yeah,
but
especially for like a kind of a first game sort of.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about what made it stand out here. In chapter 8, I have a statistic that really shows you how this game was a slow burn to success, but we're not there yet. So essentially, the big thing that happens now, though, is BMG Interactive was sold. And the new corporate overlords, that Bertelsmann company, decided that video game development was no longer a part of their strategy. So they were going to sell BMG Interactive. And Houser went to go find a buyer. And he found one.
Imagine being the company that sold GTA away.
I know, right? That's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy to think they sold GTA away. So he found one in Ryan Brandt. To put it bluntly, Ryan Brandt's a rich kid. That's how I will describe it. Brandt's father owned 2 magazines, Interview and then Art in America, and his mother was a supermodel. And Brandt knew he wanted to be in new media, and I'm using that in quotes because this is at the time where video games are considered new media, right? And at 21, he used $1.5 million that he got from his dad as an investment other private investors to fund Take-Two Interactive. That's right. We're at Take-Two, everybody. That's where we're at. We did it.
Oh, man. We made it.
Here. Mm-hmm. So Sam Houser met with Ryan Brandt and explained his philosophy on gaming and where he wanted this industry to go. And Brandt just ate it right up, just loved it, right? So in March of 1998, Brandt paid $14.2 million in stock for BMG Interactive. Jeez. Sam Houser was promoted to VP of Worldwide Product Development and got to live his childhood dream of moving to New York City.
Wow, the Big Apple.
Right, where it all happened. So, and this should mention now that GTA was doing exceptionally well. So it was about to be released in the US, and it was actually banned in Brazil for being so controversial. I think they said the fine was like $8,000 if you got caught with a copy of it.
I think it's like if you were a retailer that sold it or something.
Yeah, something like that. Like if you sold it to someone, it was like an $8,000 fine. So the US fan website that was created for GTA pre-release was so popular that they actually made it the official US website by Houser and the group at Take-Two. Yeah.
Work with your community on that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So then the game launched on PC first in the US by a small startup in Connecticut called ASC Games. They're the ones that got the rights to distribute it. This is a small company, and ASC showed the game to reviewers, and almost all of them were positive, except the book mentions this one Entertainment Weekly review who called it, quote, shock schlock game. As monotonous as it is discomforting, you earn brownie points with your mob boss, though, leaving you with outdated graphics and a game that is guilty but hardly a pleasure. End
Dang.
Quote. Yeah, that's like a big ouch, right? But then it turned out ASC reached out and why did this review get so poor? And the reviewer pretty much said they had to give it an F because ET, that's Entertainment Tonight's editors, Entertainment Weekly's editors, thought they wouldn't let them give it higher than an F. They're like, you have to give this an F because of the content.
Oh, because it's so
the game.
Violent and whatever.
Mm-hmm. They wouldn't let him give it a higher rating. He had to give it an F. So that was just one small hiccup. And by the time the game came out on PS1 in the summer of 1998, it was a huge hit there in the US. That was also the time Houser brought his friends Terry Donovan, Gary Foreman, and Jamie King with him, and they all got a basement apartment in the South Street Seaport area of Manhattan. And there they were inundated by American television, music, and the city, and they began planning their next big expansion to GTA, a mission pack that was about GTA London 1969. So
move to New York, start making a game about London.
Exactly. I think their philosophy for this was they're going to make they're going to kind of bring some of that London film, like crime film culture to US audiences, which I think is really cool. Like you make a parody of New York City. So now we're going to show you what a parody of London looks like. It's a really cool idea.
Yeah, makes sense.
So now all they needed was a name, right? They wanted a name that stood out. One that was thrown out was Grudge Games, but they decided that sounded too negative. However, they settled on Rockstar as a reference to what they grew up with, but also as a joke, like an ironic name, because to them, all the true rock stars are gone, right? Like rock stars were a thing in the 70s, and that whole thing is gone. So we're calling ourselves Rockstar, but it's kind of an inside joke, right? So while on a trip to Six Flags in New Jersey, they made it official and they got Rockstar burned into a piece of wood as a plaque. And they also got another plaque made. But since this is a family show, I will not read to you what the other plaque says, and you will have to buy the book to find out what they say on the other plaque, because we can't go there. We can't do it.
Not appropriate. But that brings us into chapter 7 here, where we talk a little bit more about the Rockstar name, which was not going over very well with their competitors. There were a bunch of established game developers that thought it was hubris, that it was arrogance. Why would you name your company something like Rockstar? Maybe they were right that it had like these lofty goals, but had they not earned the name, I mean, at this point, GTA was barely out in the US. Maybe they would be able to show that they kind of earned it. They were just sort of a bunch of garage nerds making games they thought were cool. They got that office in New York and they just sort of kept making their art. Building their brand as a gaming company, separate from the game itself, they wanted to build a separate brand for Rockstar themselves. They thought that was important for making sure you get the right people on board to make the things you want to make. And I agree with that. I think a company is just a group of people who all have a common goal, right? So when you're hiring people and you're getting people together to make something, you want to make sure you're all working towards the same thing. And to attract the right kind of talent to your organization, your company needs to have a brand that shows what you're all about and that will bring in people. So, because you don't just want to find just programmers or artists, you need the right programmers, you need the right artists that get it, right? That work on the same thing, that are all working towards the same goal. So I know a lot of people scoff at that sort of like corporate thing of like trying to make your place seem cool enough to work at. But it is very important to make sure you attract the right kind of talent. I think a company like Rockstar makes games not just because like somebody had an idea and like they made the game. It's because everybody is all working on the same idea and they all work towards the same thing. That's what all the best media companies do, I think. Especially early on when each individual has more control over the final product. When your company's 10,000 people, maybe the individuals don't matter as much as sort of leadership levels. But when you're like under 100 people, every single person really has like a hand in what ends up coming out in the final product. This sort of extended to their wardrobe. They didn't have like a dress code or a uniform, but they did want to make sure that there are high profile folks like Brian Baglow, who was their newly minted head of PR. They wanted to make sure that they exuded their Rockstar brand and attitude. Because they weren't just a developer. Also, they were actually a publisher, and they wanted to publish other games that were trying to be as culturally relevant as GTA was trying to be. GTA was modest success at this point, certainly more than they had expected or hoped for, but it wasn't making like literal billions of dollars yet. They also published N64 games like Thrasher, Skate and Destroy, and Monster Truck Madness. Do you remember Body Harvest? That was made by DMA Designs. I don't think it was published by Rockstar.
I do remember Body Harvest. I don't think I have Body Harvest yet, though. I don't have any of these games yet, actually, for 64, which means I got to get them because the collection is growing. The collection grew yesterday, so I'll talk about that at the end of the show today.
Ooh, I'm excited to hear about it. So I want to pause for a moment here to kind of explain the sort of corporate structure here as I understand it, of like who is doing what and making
this
what.
Is a good idea. This is a really good idea, because I got kind of lost reading the book too, because there's a lot of acquisitions and sellings going on. So yeah, it gets kind of tough to follow and who's doing what. So you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Mike, but the TLDR so far on what we have is that back in the day, DMA Design had a publishing deal with BMG Interactive. They developed the first GTA, and BMG sort of published it, right? Then BMG decided they didn't want to be in the video game business anymore. And so BMG's parent company decided that they didn't want to be in the video game business anymore. So they sold BMG along with all of their assets to Take-Two. These assets included the GTA games. DMA developed the games, but BMG owned the IP. So that's where the separation happens. I think. Correct. And there's going to be a bigger separation in Chapter 8 as well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and DMA design, that's the people in like Scotland
Yes.
specifically, and BMG is like Sam Hauser.
Yes.
Just so we're all on the same page, and we'll get to there's going to be a split here in chapter 8 we'll talk about in a second, but that's a good update because you can get lost in this kind of stuff, and it happened in other books we covered too, because when companies get bought and sold all the time and it's just hard to keep track.
Yeah.
So.
And sometimes the line between like publisher and developer is a little bit blurry. So I want to make sure we're keeping track of that, because if you boot up GTA 3, you'll see a Rockstar logo, but you'll also see a DMA design logo. So like trying to make sense of like how that happens, right? When DMA design made the original game, but BMG owned the GTA IP, even if DMA made the game. So the Hausers and Jamie King, who are bigwigs at BMG, they moved with the company to New York to form Rockstar Games underneath the Take-Two label. Sort of like how record companies will have like many labels underneath them publishing music that like has a certain style to it, or a certain brand, or a certain like feeling to it, right? I think Take-Two is like the overarching label with like Rockstar underneath it, and they probably had a couple other things as well going on, that like Rockstar published their own games under the Rockstar label, and I don't know any other things under Take-Two at this point in time, which there might not be any others, because it sounds like that rich guy just made the company so that they could work with Rockstar.
Yeah, realistically.
It's like Take-Two, Rockstar publishes, DMA still making the game. So games like like GTA, the other ones I mentioned. DMA still made the GTA games. So the games were published by Take-Two under the Rockstar Games label. So, okay, hope that's all right.
We did it.
Yeah. It gets a little more confusing later on, I think. So then they made GTA London 1969, which was a mission pack for the original GTA taking place in London in 1969. They also made that standalone for the PlayStation. And I think that's the London 1969. There's also a 1961 London game. I think those are the only two GTA games that take place in like real cities that are not, and also the only two that take place in cities that are not based on U.S. cities. If I'm correct.
They're just calling it London. They're not even making some other name for it.
Yeah, they're not calling it. I don't know what a good parody name of London would be, but like Liberty City is supposed to be New York, Vice City is supposed to be Miami, San Andreas is an entire state consisting of Los Venturas, Los Santos, and what's the one that's supposed to be San Francisco? I can't remember.
I can't remember either. But yeah, it's supposed to be like a chunk of California, a big chunk of California, like melded down.
yeah, it's like the entire state. Plus, Las Vegas is in Nevada, but like we count that. At least in GTA San Andreas, there are three very distinct cities. In San Andreas of GTA 5, it's really more of the like Los Angeles is the big city, and then there's like sort of you can go up into kind of Northern California territory where there's like little things happening there, but like there's really only one big city. So yeah, they were also developing at this point in time a true sequel to GTA, not just a mission pack for London. They were developing GTA 2. This game took place in a city called Anywhere City, USA, which is really kind of lazy if you ask me.
Yeah, well, they were trying to do a futuristic post-apocalyptic thing with this one, right? Which gave them a lot more freedom to kind of leave it open-ended, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Like how Cyberpunk takes place in like Night City, where you're like, what?
Yeah.
Do we still call it Night City during the day? I don't know anything about Cyberpunk, so.
I don't either. I still haven't played it. I was waiting for it to go even more on sale, and it's getting there. It's getting to the price.
Every time it goes on sale, I'm like, once it's $10, I'm getting it.
Yeah, me too.
But the big innovation for GTA 2 was the whole gang system. So GTA has always had gangs, and you kind of do stuff for gangs as part of the story. But GTA 2 took that gang gameplay up a notch. Rather than just being a device for storytelling, the gangs had their own territories in Anywhere City. You could choose which ones you wanted to help with or help them expand, that kind of thing. You do missions for specific gangs. You increased your reputation with those gangs. Kushner notes that the gangs are sort of like the movie The Warriors. Have you seen The Warriors?
Yeah, I have seen The Warriors. Yeah.
That movie is underappreciated, I think. Not enough people have seen it. It's so
it's
like
a wild
campy
movie.
And funny. It is a vibe of its own.
The baseball player gang.
Yeah.
It feels, honestly, The Warriors, the movie, it feels like a video game story.
It does.
Because it does, it's like, if you don't know the story of The Warriors, if we're going to do a tangent real quick, which I think we are, it's fine. It's like this. There it is. This gang called The Warriors, which relation to all the gangs in the movie are like just normal clothes, not
Yeah,
weirdly themed.
they are the least interesting gang, really.
Yeah, they are. They get falsely accused of killing this big criminal leader at the meeting of the gangs in New York City, and they have to escape and get to, I think their home base is on Coney Island, right?
That sounds right. I haven't seen that movie
Yeah.
in a long time.
I mean, it's been a long time, but yeah. And so what happens is it's them like trying to escape and them running into all these random gangs that are like differently themed. So there's like a baseball themed gang, and I think there's like a cheerleader themed gang too, or something like that. There's like it's strange, but what it feels like is it really feels like boss encounters. Like they're going from boss encounter to boss encounter, which makes it feel very much like a video game or D&D, like a TTRPG, where you're like,
yeah,
this is this encounter, this is that encounter, this is that encounter, and you just do that until we get to the end of the movie. That's what it feels like.
Yeah,
but it also has the famous like warriors come out to play quote that
the
I think
bottles,
is used.
the clinking bottles, warriors.
Yeah, it's worth watching, and it also I feel like it's just kind of like you put here, it's just weird and fun. They don't make movies like that really anymore. I feel like where they're just like random and crazy.
It's a weird movie that like ostensibly should not be taken seriously, but the movie seems to take itself very seriously, which makes it really interesting to watch. But it takes itself seriously, but because it's so ridiculous, you can't be like, oh, the directors and writers and whoever in this, like, oh, wow, they really think this is serious. Like, it's so ridiculous, you can't possibly think that, but they just play it at face value. I don't know. It's just,
dude, it's why, like, when we did improv, my favorite improv game we played was called Unfunny Improv. And the whole goal was to try to make it dramatic. And we were all so bad at it that it turned out to be the funniest thing. Because if you're trying to play it serious, it's very funny. And I think that's what the Warriors does.
Yeah. Like, and the audience loves it too, because they know you're trying to be serious and they know they can mess it up at any time by laughing, right?
Yeah, that's what's fun. Oh gosh, I love that game. But so it's very serious. Is that going to be a piece of our lore? We've said that we met doing improv in college, right?
I think so, but if not, it is part of our lore. Yeah,
it's in the Codex glossary now. Okay,
that's right.
But yeah, great Warriors pull, by the way.
Well, Rockstar does make a video game adaptation of that movie in like 2005.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which is probably worth us playing. No, it's not, because the movie was like 25 years old by that point. Like, why would you make a movie adaptation of a 25-year-old movie unless you had a good idea?
We should play it. We should play it together.
We should play it and watch the movie.
Do an episode on it. Yeah, that would be so fun. I didn't know they did that. That's so fun. Yeah. Okay, this is exciting.
That was our Warriors tangent. I don't think it's the first time we've gone off on a Warriors tangent on this show.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Probably not.
I did it last time we talked about this book. It was probably only a month ago.
I don't remember anything we do. Someone will be like, hey, remember when you said this on the podcast? I'll be like, nope. Got to listen back to it.
That's why we record it, so I don't have to remember it.
Yeah, I have no clue.
Yeah. So Take-Two was a really good publisher for them, but it was also a business, and they had a little bit of a harder time abiding the like creative sort of no deadlines way that the developers often like to work. I think this is one of the classic struggles between like the business and the art is like the business needs things to happen at a certain point in time, and the art cannot be rushed, right? So it was a little bit of tension there. Because Take-Two is a public company, they had to demonstrate progress on a regular basis. This put the Rockstar folks on a timer and gave them a little bit of urgency for the things they were making. So this led to crunch time, the team putting in full days, 6 days a week. Sam Houser, though, was right there alongside all of the folks that were working on this stuff, leading by example. So the Rockstar folks are in New York. DMA Design is still back in Scotland developing the game. And so there was some tension, like cross the ocean tension. And I'm sure time zones don't help in communication there, because they probably weren't having a whole lot of real-time communication, especially considering this wasn't pre-internet times, but it was like they weren't sending the game to each other over the internet at this point in time.
Yeah, it was more just like emails, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Like probably mostly phone calls, maybe some emails, and then you hoped that they would like mail you a disc over, and it would take a month to get there probably. Or maybe, I guess there wouldn't have even been a way to like show the game over the internet, because like streaming video was like not really a thing.
Yeah, that wasn't a thing yet. Yeah.
But But then in 1999, the book sort of takes a hard turn here because we're about to get into some of the legal stuff with like Jack Thompson. In 1999, a really, really terrible thing happened, and that's the shooting at Columbine High School. And it really like sent the nation kind of into a tizzy. And as sad as it is today, to say today, because we hear about this kind of stuff a lot, this was one of the first like really high profile school shootings, I think. Not to say it was the first one or the first one that was ever on the news or anything like that, but like this one really like grabbed the public. There was just something about this story that really like made the public want to talk about it a lot. It was all over the news, and everybody wanted to find an answer to why the boys did it. And Jack Thompson had an idea. That idea was video games, because that's what he always comes back to. He blamed video games for an earlier school shooting that had happened in May 1998. The perpetrators of that shooting also play video games, so that must have been the reason that they did it. They blamed Doom for that, which was heavily played by both the shooters in the Paducah shooting in 1998 and the shooters in the Columbine shooting. So it was like, oh, this is a common thread between these two groups of people. They all play video games. That must be it, right? This is familiar territory for Kushner, by the way, because he wrote about this in Masters of Doom, which, again, we've covered on this podcast before. So we're about to get into some of that stuff. We're going to be talking Jack Thompson. We're going to be talking about Doom and Mortal Kombat, and now the latest like scapegoat is Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, I know there's like an inherent bias in this kind of stuff, obviously, because we're all like video game fans, but it really is like a huge witch hunt. You know, just when you look at it on the outside now, and you're like, we got to find something to blame. Well, they played video games, and then they just picked that arbitrarily. Like that seems to be how it went down. Yeah,
this like the famous Stan Lee quote when like stuff like this happened and they get blamed on comics. And we're like, and you know, all the boys who did this, they read comics. And Stan Lee said something like, yeah, I bet they all drink milk too. Like,
yeah,
we're gonna say milk does it, right?
Happened with Dungeons and Dragons too during the Satanic Panic. Like everyone's looking for something to blame. So, all right, Chapter 8 opens up with May 1999 and E3. And this was a huge time for gaming. So in the 3 years... E3 mattered. Yeah, because in the 3 years, the business had grown 64%. So since 1997, grown 64%. The industry would grow $7 billion in 1999, making it bigger than movies. Wow. So... this is kind of where we're hitting the big, like, oh, there's actually a lot of money in video games. They also go into some stuff about like the parties at E3 and like the term booth babe and all that stuff. I'm going to skip over that. You can look that up in your own time. But I want to go into how back to the Columbine high school shooting and how like all eyes are on the video game industry, because this makes it even more interesting that our heroes at the now established Rockstar Games, riding high off the success of GTA London 1969. And it was actually number 1 on the UK charts, followed by GTA at number 2. And then here's the crazy fact I was bringing up earlier. So this is how you know GTA 1 was such a huge success. Quote, GTA had been in the top 20 for the entire 75 weeks since its release.
Whoa.
So it had been in the top 20 games for 75 weeks. That's crazy. It's kind of a sleeper hit, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's not number 1 for like a month. It's like, no, consistently top 20 for 75 weeks.
Which means word's getting around. People are enjoying it. They're spending a lot of time with it. They're showing it to their friends.
Yeah, and it's like kind of getting this buzz around it, and also that marketing buzz that we talked about of being like, ooh, it's like a bad game, right? Mm-hmm. So emboldened by their success, Sam Houser decided to start a viral marketing campaign at E3, not by having a booth at E3. They did not have a booth at E3, but by tagging everything at E3 with GTA 2 stickers. They had small plastic bags of fake pills that had the GTA 2 logo on them that they hid in the E3 halls. Ooh. Rockstar wasn't even in the main hall at E3. They were across the street at a party with fellow Take-Two's gathering of developers, which would by God for short. And they were essentially having a concert and a party in the parking lot every day. Like there was rock and roll acts playing, they were drinking, they were just partying outside across the street from E3. And if reviewers wanted a demo, this is where we first see like the secret room, like you meet us in a hotel room. Ooh. Off-site. And Sam and Donovan would be there to, like, Sam Hauser and Terry Donovan would be there to demo the game. Like, that's what was going on. So also good to note that Rockstar took the Columbine issue head on in a particular dramatic way. They said, quote, "Our responsibility is to the 99.9% of the population who aren't actually planning to murder anyone in the next 2 weeks." End quote. That's what Terry Donovan said. Yes, which is pretty intense thing to say, like right after this happened, right?
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so Rockstar also made their own short, low-budget film to promote GTA 2. I think they said the budget was $150,000 and it was extremely unplanned. It was shot all over Brooklyn. They did not know they did not care that they needed permission to shoot at locations, so they were just kicked out of places constantly. And it was just a really run, like, fly by the seat of your pants kind of project, if anything.
The 90s were wild, man.
It really was. So this form of PR was new to the games industry, and because usually developers farm this out to a PR firm, which they did for GTA 1, right? But Rockstar wanted to focus on creating their brand first, just like Tyler said earlier. Like, they wanted to make Rockstar the name. So, and this all came from the idea of, like, music that Hauser followed as a teenager, where it's like an attitude thing, like record labels, right? So, like, this backfired, though, when they made a promo that was, quote, "steal this game." That's what the sticker said for GTA 2, which retailers were obviously just like, what? No, don't steal this game. Pay for it from our stores. What are you trying to do? So they got, like, really upset with Rockstar because they were, yeah, because they were like, no, we need to sell these. So they tried to fix it by putting censored stickers over the existing merch, but it didn't really salvage it with game retailers. And even, I think they even talked to a PR person and interviewed them in here. It's like, yeah, that was like a huge mistake, like just a huge flub, that a PR firm would not have done that. Right. But because they're trying to do this guerrilla marketing, they are doing it anyway. So, they thought it would be smooth guerrilla marketing, but they made other mistakes too. Like, one time, though, it was actually like a PR firm messing with them. So Rockstar heard rumors of a former employee that made a website called F-Star, where the F is another word that I'm not going to stay on here. And in reality, this was not a disgruntled employee. This was a publicity stunt by a PR firm that didn't tell Rockstar because they wanted to make it seem more legit, which was funny because then Hauser and Donovan hired a private investigator to find out who did this website. So they paid money to learn it was their own PR department doing this thing. So all these shenanigans and this, like, marketing craziness is going on. And Dave Jones at DMA was not happy. Okay, not a happy camper. We haven't really talked about him that much because he's just been developing the games, right? And he felt like Sam Hauser and Terry Donovan had become the parents of Rockstar, like wanting the Dundee office to make as many games as possible to, like, fuel the Rockstar vibe, like ignoring them kind of. And things started falling apart for Jones after taking backlash from PETA for a game they made called Tanktics, where the player would make tanks out of anything, including at one point a sheep. Like, you could stick a sheep on a tank. It was supposed to be funny, right? But PETA went after them because it's Rockstar. So they're just like, and Rockstar's leaning into it, right? So he felt that GTA 2 was a rush job, and that his initial idea, which, if you remember in, like, episode 1 where we talked about it, is this would be a 3D world, right? That's what Dave Jones was trying to build, a 3D world where a city was operating and simulated. And they got taken over by this criminal aspect and the gameplay aspect of it. So when the opportunity arose and Take-Two actually bought DMA from Infogrames, which is another company that we haven't talked about that owned actually DMA, like a parent of DMA, but we've just been saying DMA, for $11 million. And then Jones just left. He just took the money and he left. So now Take-Two owned DMA, and then they still have the IP for GTA. And they took the office and they moved it out of Dundee, Scotland, and to Edinburgh, Scotland. And they looked at the new frontier of gaming, which is 3D graphics. and we're going to get into that and some more stuff with Jack Thompson next episode. But Tyler, what you been playing?
I've been playing it. More Expedition 33. I have finally finished Act 2. I thought I was close to the end of Act 2, I think, last week when we talked. Because I was like, I'm like trying not to spoil things for myself, but I also kind of want to know where I'm at in the game. And I had just beaten a boss that was described as being the end of Act 2. Apparently, you fight this boss a couple of different times, and I had fought them only the first time. So I thought I was at the end of Act 2. I have actually passed Act 2 into Act 3. So the whole map is open to me now. And so I'm at the point where it's like, you can go do the final showdown. Are you ready? And there's like basically like heavily hinting that you need to be doing some side quests right now, but I guess you can go try to beat the boss and roll credits if you want. So I found a little guide, a spoiler-free guide on Reddit somewhere that was like, here's kind of some of the stuff that you probably want to do before you do this. It's not literally everything. There's some like relationship quests, kind of like in Mass Effect, where you do the loyalty quests. I think there's some things kind of like that I want to do. I want to see the storyline there. I'm not interested in like super bosses or anything like that, but I do want to make sure I see the storyline for all of these characters. Major lore drops. Everything is upended. It's great. I'm still loving it. I'm getting more and more better at the battle system and the parrying and blocking and dodging, being okay with dodging until I am so good at dodging that I can nail it perfectly, and then I do the blocking. But if you try to block from the beginning, you're just gonna have a bad time, because it's not a skill check of being able to like see something without prior knowledge. It is like a memory check and a skill check, but a memory check of like, I know how to react to this particular animation because I've seen it before, not because the animation gives me any real information, but just because I've seen it before and I know how this move works.
Interesting. That kind of is opposite of what I've been playing this week does with parrying. Because I've been playing Doom the Dark Ages.
Yeah, tell me about it.
And it's just color coded. Like if you see green coming at you, that means you can parry it. That's what that means. It's way simpler. I also really like in Doom the Dark Ages. I'm only like 3 or 4 chapters in. I'm not that far into the game. But because I've also been playing Blueprints as well. I've been kind of going back and forth. There was a day where I would play Doom mission and then go play Blueprints run and then go back to Doom. And I went back and forth like that 3 or 4 times. But I really like Doom the Dark Ages. I like that it's kind of, I'm hesitant to use the word easier because I haven't gotten that far in it yet. But it seems less demanding on the player than Doom Eternal was. Because you know how in Doom Eternal you'd have to like juggle your weapons to kill the enemy quick. Like when that enemy took, like for example, the Kako demon, it's like you shoot it with a grenade launcher, so it eats it and then it dies really quickly. Like there's less of that in this, and it's more of like you got to use your shield to block, use it to stun, get close, back away. Like it's more like, it's weird because it's movement focused, but movement with the shield, because you can like shield leap really far away. So, but you feel kind of slower and you're more tanky. So I really like it. I mean, it's really fun. It's different. I like what they're doing with it. I also did my first mech fight where you're like in the Doom Gundam, for lack of a better term.
Oh, there's Doom Gundams?
Oh yeah, dude. It was, I don't feel bad saying that because it was in the trailer. So I don't feel bad. Like,
I gotta play this.
But yeah, there's Doom Gundams, and there's another thing that you do as Doom Guy that I won't say, but was also in the trailer. So I haven't gotten there yet, though. But it's really leaning on, this is a war between Hell and like the makers and Argent,
everyone else.
Yeah, and it's like really, really cool, and you feel really cool. You feel like a superhero because they shoot you down out of a maker ship and you very much do like a superhero landing and then you start fighting everything, and then they like teleport you back when you're done. So it seems like it's got a lot more story. There's just a ton of NPCs, like way more NPCs than any Doom game we've played. Like Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, you're by yourself, right? A lot. Like you're just you and demons, and that's it. And there's like NPCs talking, and there's people in this world that are like scared of you because you're such a cool Doom guy, you know? So it's like, it's really fun. It's just very different, but I'm digging it. And then Blueprints, I'm so close to getting to room 46. I know how to do it. It's just about getting the lucky run.
I believe
like getting
you.
the right run. Thank you. It's been a huge bummer because I've gotten so close so many times now, and the room drafting has screwed me up, and I haven't opened room 46. I know how to do it. We got so much stuff unlocked, but it's just it'll happen. It'll happen eventually.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was it for the day. I think we're gonna hopefully do more Jacked next week, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be fun. And because I'm digging this book so far, I love a good David Kushner book.
Me too.
Other things you can do to help us out, you can go to codexpodcast.net. It's got all our links on there. The Discord's on there, the contact form. You can send us an email also to codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com. And with that, Tyler, do you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Yeah. Goodbye, everybody.